This is perfect. A report just revealed that the Brooklyn Nets are looking to deal Cam Johnson, and what better team? Who are better suitors than potentially the Orlando Magic? Now, what they are looking for, the Orlando Magic might not be able to provide, but they're going to get very, very close, and the fit here does work. Yes, he's a 6'8 forward. Yes, he's getting paid over $20 million in salary this upcoming season, but the Orlando Magic might just be able to find a way to get him. We've talked about him before on this channel, and I definitely think it's something worth bringing up. Guys, welcome to Magic Digest. I'm your host, Patrick Previty. This is your one-stop shop for Orlando Magic basketball content here on YouTube. Now, before I continue on, 30% of you guys are subscribed. I appreciate you guys. 71% of you guys who are watching these videos regularly aren't, so make sure to join the 30% that is. It is the easiest and best way to support the channel. Okay, so this comes from a handful of different outlets that are talking about what the Nets might end up wanting to do and what exactly they're looking to try to move as far as Cam Johnson and the upcoming draft is concerned. Now, those two things are slightly connected, and I definitely think it's important to point out that while the Orlando Magic do not have what the Nets are looking for as far as the lottery pick is concerned, this fit just makes a ton of sense for both of these teams to potentially just be in talks. I think that there were definitely potential talks during the trade deadline, and while the Brooklyn Nets are in a little bit of a different spot organizationally than the Orlando Magic are, I feel like they are seeing eye to eye with what could potentially help out both teams. I think the Magic, I made a draft video yesterday, you guys can check that out, are probably going to deal one of their first round picks in this upcoming draft. And if the Nets are looking to build in the future, while it might not be as high as the top 13, it could still be 16, it could still be 21, and that could definitely be beneficial for them. So that must be recognized. While that is not there, or what they would potentially want, it's pretty close. And also, Cam Johnson's not worth a lottery pick, no matter how you slice it. So he's still a very good player, but that is definitely also something to recognize. Now, where exactly or what exactly is the buzz around the league? Well, this comes from the author of this article, which I always link in the description down below. The buzz around the league suggests that the Brooklyn Nets are contemplating a move that could send Johnson to a new home in exchange for a coveted second lottery pick. Now, look, like I said, too much. But anyways, among the teams eyeing this opportunity, the Orlando Magic stands out, driven by a pressing need to enhance its backcourt capabilities. Now, Cam Johnson is a player that's been played interchangeably from the 2 to the 4 position. As we know in the NBA today, positionless basketball is definitely a thing. Not a lot of teams can go small like those prime Warriors, but you don't need exactly a dominant center to be able to dominate in this league. Even though they've come back, you don't really need it. You can have that wing-driven team, and you can still find a lot of success as long as you have a point guard that can distribute the ball, or one of your wing players can distribute the ball very effectively. Franz's passing was much improved from last year, and this team hopefully is going to bank on Jalen Suggs being that playmaker, being that table setter that we've all yearned for. So, adding Cam Johnson, what exactly does he bring to this team? Well, we've talked about this before. He is a 19-point-per-game scorer, and he is an elite three-point shooter in this league. Now, let's take a look at what he did last year. As I mentioned, 19 points per game. He had 39% from the 3 last season, 48% from the floor, 4 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and this was on a Nets team that really struggled. He's still pretty young. He's 29 years old, and if we were to invest in this kind of player, I definitely think he would be one of those core pieces moving forward for this Orlando Magic team. Now, you wouldn't have to invest in him like long-term as far as years down the line, especially depending on what you would end up having to give up, but he's still fits that timeline and is a player that you could potentially move off of in the future if that were to be the case. So I think there's flexibility there, and there is a clear need that he fits. Yesterday, as I mentioned, I made that draft video. I talked about a couple different forwards who can shoot and can provide that offense, but if you're not looking to invest for this team through the draft, then you definitely have to say who exactly is looking to invest in this draft. Let's give them those picks. What can we get back? What are the players that we could potentially give back? And I will say that Cam Johnson, as far as draft day trades or draft around that day trades are concerned, is probably one of the best gets that you could probably potentially acquire if you're the Orlando Magic. Not a lot of players are going to be on the market during the draft, especially some of those higher profile names that we have discussed ad nauseum on this channel. But Cam Johnson is going to be one of those players that definitely I think will be a major bright spot. Now, a lot of Orlando Magic fans I definitely think would be very happy with him, and definitely think that he would be a great addition. But I think the next question is, does he give this team a chance to take that next step? Is this the kind of player that brings the Orlando Magic out of the first round? I definitely think so. Is he the type of player that can bring the Magic out of the second round and into the conference finals? Maybe, if Paolo and Franz continue to grow, as we've seen through their first handful of years in the league, if Jalen Suggs is healthy, if this core is healthy as well, and you get some bench scoring to add to Cam Johnson. Definitely think that this team could be a conference finals team if you add Cam Johnson, but we haven't really seen him in those high pressure-esque scenarios, I feel, at least as of late. So there's certainly some question marks as far as what would the potential or what would the ceiling of that team be, because if you were to acquire Cam Johnson, there's not a ton of flexibility. So as we've mentioned with a handful of these different guys, the salary cap is something that definitely comes into question. So if you look at the draft and you say you don't want to build through that, if you're the Orlando Magic, you're going to give up one of those 2 picks. And if you say that the ceiling should be high enough, so we want to make a move to get him, the next thing is you're going to have to check the salary cap, because as I mentioned, he's a player that is getting paid over $20 million per year. Not a hefty contract, but something that is going to impact this team, because they're going from worst to first, essentially, in the salary cap situation. The salary cap for the Orlando Magic includes a payroll that is a guaranteed payroll that is over the luxury tax line and roughly $20 million below the first apron line. Now, that is pending the Mo Wagner $11 million team option, which is assumed that they will pick that up. The Magic need to add to their roster, but they're going to have to watch where that is right now. With Jalen Suggs' new contract kicking in, Franz Wagner's contract kicking in, and then Paolo Banchero definitely getting offered at least the extension, this team is going to have to watch out. Jonathan Isaac is a contract that we saw last season, which was a descending deal. That is going to help this team have some flexibility. But still, if you're going to pay for a guy who's $20 million, like Jonathan Isaac was last year, obviously it lowers now to $15 million, which is roughly 10% of the salary cap, you're going to want more offensive production. So from Cam Johnson, if you get him, is that worth the chunk of salary cap that you potentially would be giving up to get him? Definitely something to consider. KCP was another player. He's got 1 more year left on his deal. Is that somebody that we could potentially trade or exchange and give a team like the Nets an expiring contract that they could potentially also get off of? Something to definitely keep an eye on as far as the salary cap situation is concerned, because maybe there's a first-round pick for Cam Johnson type of deal that could happen. I certainly think that that's worth it, as far as if you could guarantee yourself to get a fringe 20-point-per-game scorer that fits an exact need that you have for the Orlando Magic, and you just spend the 16 or the 21 on it. You probably do that because that's more than you would get for this picks, but you probably would have to give up another player for that. If that is the case, you're exchanging salary cap, you're exchanging those contracts. It becomes less hurtful in the long run, especially when you assess what is going on with this team's money. Now, this would put a hindrance on the Anthony Simons race that this Magic team silently, or maybe just Magic fans, are having. That is also something I think that needs to be taken into consideration whenever we think about a trade like this. You probably won't be able to create a fringe big four, if you will, with Simons, Cam Johnson, Paolo, and Franz. You would definitely be buying Suggs, Paolo, Franz, Cam Johnson. What kind of ceiling does that give? I think that's probably the biggest question outside of salary cap. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Is this something that you would do if we gave up one of those 2 picks and maybe one of the guys off of the bench? Not Anthony Black or anything like that, and certainly not Jalen Suggs or Mo Wagner, but maybe somebody else, package that, and would you do that deal? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, I'll see you guys next time with more Orlando Magic basketball content.